I talk a lot about manipulators and liars on this channel. And the reason I do, I've explained this many times, and people don't seem to understand why I spend so much time on this, is I really struggle with people. And that is one of the reasons I live off-grid. You know, I'm asked this question all the time, but I think primarily by potential trolls. Well, I don't understand why you live off-grid. That doesn't make any sense. It's just so much easier to live on grid, and it doesn't cost that much more. Well, I've never said anything about cost, although, well, maybe I have. Maybe I suggested that we live pretty cheap here. But that's more of a minimalistic thing, not an off-grid thing. So, but one of my drivers is I don't want to be around people. And the fewer people I have to be around, the better. So if I can reduce costs so I don't have to go get a real job, that's great. If I can stay here working lawnmowers and only interact with the customers when they drop off and pick up, I'd rather not even have to do that, but I do that. Of course, YouTube makes things pretty easy. Of course, you got the comment section, so you got to deal with people all the time, no matter what you do. But you got to make money. So the reason I bring it up, well, I guess I think I already answered it, is because it is what drives me to do this off-grid thing. I mean, I just look at the world a lot differently, and I've tried to explain it, why I do this. And I think I've mentioned it one time before, years ago, and it spread across the internet like a plague, so I don't want to bring it up anymore. But there is a specific reason why I look at the world differently. And people think I'm crazy for it. That people seem to think that you absolutely have to have intervention from, have to have help from others. And it's amazing that, we've been doing this for 10 years. And I have not conveyed the thought that I haven't had to have help. I don't even take advice from the comment section. Usually I do the exact opposite. If a commenter tells me to do something, I won't do it. Because I don't want my audience to think that I needed help. Because the point of this video, or of my channel, is to explain you can do things on your own. If you think about it long enough, work on it hard enough, study it, all that stuff, you'll get it. So liars and manipulators are a big problem for me. I can spot them in an instant. I mean, the first words out of their mouth are always some form of manipulation or a lie. And I know people will say, well, just because when you ask them, how you doing? And they say, yeah, okay. That's not what I'm talking about. I understand local or communication dynamics. I get that. But people will brag about things that they don't need to brag about, status. It's all manipulation to try to gain the upper hand of the person they're talking to. One of the things I don't understand quite clearly is friendships. I don't understand them. Some people say I have a lot of friends. But if you remember that movie, Tombstone, Doc Holliday was said, why are you doing this, Doc? And he said, because Wyatt's my friend. Well, heck, I got lots of friends, Doc. I don't. So, Doc prioritized certain characteristics that were important, whatever that was to him, in that movie. Now, I don't know, Wyatt Earp made up a lot of stories in his time, so we don't know all the true facts, but regardless. So, I've had friends throughout my life, and what I noticed is all of them were manipulators. All of them were trying to get something from me. And I don't think friendships should be that way, where there's even if you go into it thinking, well, there should be a mutual advantage to both sides. Each party should get something from it. I just don't see that. I consider Carolyn a friend. And I can't, in my head, see that there is anything that she provides that I couldn't do on my own. Now, that's not saying that I'm not extremely appreciative for the things she does. So like the laundry and the cooking. Oh man, I thank her every time there's a plate in my lap. Every time. Thank you. Oh, this is delicious. So my appreciative level is through the roof. But on the other hand, I don't require her to do it. I can do it on my own. But it seems to me that most friendships are based on what you can do for me and what I can do for you. Not just because you enjoy their company, but because there is a requirement to do things. And I don't have a need to have friends. I just don't. And the thing is no matter how kind-hearted someone seems, it always seems like, well, that didn't last long. You know, people write me and they tell me how great I am, and you write back and you thank them, and you know, you try to help them as much as possible, and then once you've helped them all that you can help them, they don't need your help anymore, the writing stop. And it happens all the time. I mean, I've had, well, there was this one person in Texas, nicest lady. She would even write me, say, hey, there's storms coming your way. And I'd be, oh, wow, thank you, I appreciate it. And every now and then she'll say, how you doing? But there's no writing anymore, no matter if I write back. So I've just given up on it. I don't even try to. I try to write back. If somebody writes me, I try to write back. But if they don't write again, then I just leave it alone, because it's just exhausting to me to try to keep a friendship together. When you realize it wasn't really a friendship in the first place. It was a one-way ticket. I need your help, and when that help is done, I have no use for you anymore. And I understand that I am not a friendly person. I've said that a million times on this channel. I'm not. I'm just not a friendly person. So in order to be friends with me, you have to accept who I am. And people don't want to. They can accept what I have for them, and they're more than happy to take it for as long as they can. But once that dries up, well, I didn't like you in the first place. And so it becomes an acquaintance, not so much a friend anymore. And I just hate it. I mean, I really do, because, you know, you get lured into this false sense of, well, you know, I think this person's a good person. I think this person is nice, and they're writing me, and it seems cordial, and it's fun. That's important. Friendship should be fun. Even if it's just writing back and forth, it should be fun. And then it just stops, and you're like, well, the fun's over with. What did I do wrong? And so now you're questioning yourself. Did I do something wrong? Did I forget to write back? Did I say something wrong? And I shouldn't have to do that with a friend. A friend should be loyal no matter what happens. As long as you're not abusive to the person, they should be loyal. And if they don't like what you said, well, you know, that I just don't agree with that. You know, Rob, it's not what I would have thought of. Oh, okay, well, that makes sense. But we're still friends. So it's just, people are interesting. They talk about friendships. I got lots of friends. No, you have lots of acquaintances because you've ran out of things for them. Or now, the other hand is you keep a list of friends, and this is pretty cynical, I know, but you keep a list of friends because these friends all have the ability to achieve something that you might need one day. It's like a hoarder. You know, I got all this junk in my camper because I might need it one day. In reality, the camper could burn down on the ground and then never miss anything in it. So friends are basically a bunch of stuff you got stored in the camper in case you need it. But if they all died tomorrow, you probably wouldn't miss it. Be like, oh darn, Sam died. Well, he was a good plumber. So anyway, I guess I should get back to the point of this story. I've been watching these police interviews. And what's interesting is I don't like manipulators and liars and all that. So the first thing, you know, they sit down with the interrogator sits down with the suspect and, oh, how's it going? And it's very cordial and polite. And tell me what you know. Tell me what's going on. Tell me, you know, like they're a witness, not a suspect, a witness. And so they start explaining, okay, this happened, this happened, this happened. Well, yeah, can you explain that the suitcase? There's one particular one that I'm going to kind of talk about. What happened with the suitcase? Well, yeah, the suitcase was stolen from my car the other day. Okay, what kind of suitcase was it? Well, it was brown, and did it look like this? Well, yeah, it looked like that. Oh, okay, that's where the victim was found, inside that suitcase. Well, okay, so now it went from cordial to uh-oh. You know, now we all know that the suspect is the bad guy. We know this. And so the suspect kind of talks themselves out of that one, and they get through it, and it's like, okay, on to the next thing. And then there was a letter that this person found, or the suspect found. And so she gives it to the police, and oh, well, that's odd that you have the suitcase and now you have the letter. Yeah, I thought it was odd too. That was just really strange. So the letter had the letter T on it. You see this letter T? Yeah, I see the letter T. The notepad that we found in your trailer has this letter T indentation, and if you put the letter on top of the notepad, that T matches up. So does the R and the F, and oh wow, that's really weird. Boy, that's strange. And they talked themselves out of that. And then, you know, so they spent 20 minutes talking about the letter, and then they move on to the next thing. So how can you explain that there's 30 witnesses from the trailer park seeing the little girl drive away in your car minutes before she died? So I struggle with that. So here we have this manipulator, the suspect, who's trying to manipulate the situation so they get out of being a crime. Now the good guy, yeah, the good guy's a good guy. And we all can admit the good guy in that room is the police officer, right? Except the whole time they've been manipulating the witness. I'm not saying, or the suspect. I'm not saying the suspect isn't terrible. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying we have to use a devious mind to trap a devious mind. So we call devious mind number 1 the good guy, and devious mind number 2 the bad guy. There's not much that separates them, except one killed somebody and the other one hasn't yet. That's just how I look at the world. If we have to use lies to govern our lives, I'm not a fan of it. I'd lay all the cards out on the table. I would use facts. My dad gave me a scenario one time when I was a kid. To me and my sister both. And he says, so you walk around the corner into a dark alley and you start to head down there and you see a body laying on the ground, apparently dead, and a man standing over this body with a knife. What do you think? My sister immediately answered, well, he stabbed that guy. And I was like, and I paused for a long time. I didn't say anything. Son, what do you think? But Dad, is it possible that he pulled the knife out so he could help try to stop the bleeding? So the question itself was a manipulation. Not that Dad was trying to manipulate, but there is a scenario there where the bad guy could be the good guy. But an interrogator's job would be to convince us and a jury that the guy holding the knife was the bad guy. So what kind of knife was it? Do you own a knife like that? We found a knife just like that in your kitchen. I'm not saying that the suspect didn't commit the crime. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I would rather have the evidence than the confession through manipulation. So if you'll click this up next box to take you to a video over to my other channel, I really would appreciate it if you go check it out. So if I can inspire you, I don't know, figure out who your friends are so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.